Imagine you need a function that is not provided out of the box, or you want to bring something your team has already created and published as a package. That's where custom code in FlutterFlow comes in handy. In this module, first, we're going to cover the fundamentals of writing custom code in FlutterFlow. Then, we're going to go deeper to custom functions and implement a demo. Then, we're going to go and create a custom widget for our application and then use it in our demo app. And finally, we're going to go through the custom actions, and you're going to learn about different properties, arguments, return type, as well as callbacks in actions. Then we will review main.dart file, where is the entry point of your app and how you can add custom code into this file. And finally, we're going to review the generated code, and you will see where are the custom functions, widgets, action, and even modification of the main.dart file in the generated code. All right, without any hesitation, let's just get started and see how we can extend our functionalities in FlutterFlow. While FlutterFlow provides a wide range of pre-built components and functionalities, there are three main reasons that you may want to use custom code. First, to extend functionality when you want to add a new feature not included in the standard FlutterFlow functionalities. So when you want to integrate with third-party packages or APIs, databases, which may require specific handling, and to create unique UI elements where it requires custom rendering or interaction. FlutterFlow provides 4 different ways to accommodate these needs. You can write custom Dart functions to perform specific tasks or calculations. You can implement custom actions that user interactions or other actions triggers can trigger. You can create custom Flutter widgets to achieve unique UI designs or behaviors. And you can also edit some parts of the main.dart file, which is the main entry point for any Flutter application. Essentially, you follow a few steps to write custom code. First, you would need to add a custom code snippet. Then you choose a unique name for your type. Then you would write your code either by adding package, writing yourself, or using AI to generate code for you. Then you would check for errors and warnings and fix them. And finally, you need to save and compile the code successfully. All right, let's go a little bit deeper to each of these steps. First, select the Custom Code tab from the navigation menu. After selecting the Custom Code tab, you will see a UI that lets you select your new code snippet. First, give it a unique name and generate code using the Code Snippet Editor or Code Copilot. One tip, if you're using the desktop version, I recommend using the FlutterFlow Web Code Editor and not the desktop version for better user experience. Sometimes, configuration for your custom code is needed, where you can find it depends on the custom code type. The fourth step tells you whether or not the code is connected to the analyzer. But what is the analyzer? Analyzer helps you to find easy debugging errors and warnings. When the analyzer tries to connect, you see a circle loading indicator. When the analyzer is connected, you'll see a check mark. And often, when the analyzer is not connected, you will see an X icon. Finally, you should compile and save your code, as we just mentioned. Checking the compile button ensures that your code can be transformed into something executed when your app is running. To run your app, you must make sure custom functions are compiled. All right, let's go a little bit deeper to the compiling code. To run your app, you must make sure custom functions are compiled. Custom widgets and actions do not need to be compiled to export code or test your app. However, you won't be able to preview custom widgets in the builder until they are compiled. You also see a project warning if you don't compile custom widgets or actions. Compiling custom functions should be pretty fast, but sometimes compiling custom actions and widgets take a while. Typically, you would see either a green check mark, which means there are no compile errors and you are good to go, or a red cross mark, which means something went wrong. When there is a compilation error, the code analyzer stops running and displays the errors caught by the compiler. Once fixed, save the code, rerun using the compile code button. The code analyzer should be reconnected. You can also manually reconnect it if needed. All right, let's zoom in a bit on the code editor. When creating a new custom code snippet in FlutterFlow, some fundamental imports will be automatically added for you. The developer cannot modify these imports. It's important to pay attention to the comments provided by FlutterFlow in the custom code snippet or the code editor. There are a few important things here that you should keep in mind. Custom functions do not allow custom imports, and this is very important to remember. And you can see comments that allows you to write and modify code between them. Pay attention to these comments and write your code as it says. For custom widgets and actions, you need to write your custom code below the indicated comment. Even if you have a custom package import, it needs to be imported below this specific comment. From time to time, you may write custom code and the formatting breaks. In this case, the code formatting button can help you quickly format your entire code again, which looks good. And there are a few tips about custom widgets and custom actions. You can access a few FlutterFlow variables and helper functions when writing a custom widget and action. If you start typing FF or FlutterFlow, you can find them most likely. For example, in a custom widget, you can access FlutterFlow theme and access to your design system background color from the theme. Or reference and access the components you have created and use them in your custom widget. You can also access the app state function where you can get your app state and the helper method that FlutterFlow also provides for it. For example, for the card items state, you may have to remove from the card or add to card items functions. You can also do that if you need to use your custom data type and enums that you already created, or if you want to create a new one. Remember that the data type classes append the word struct to end of the class name. Enums are just the name of the enum. However, what we just explored may not apply to custom functions. Please keep in mind, for functions, you can leverage the arguments to pass the data or the state that you want to use in the function. Beautiful. Let's now move on to the next video and go deeper and implement a custom function. Custom functions enable you to encapsulate reusable logic, making your code more organized and maintainable. We already have seen the very simple way of writing a custom function. In fact, we used code expression in the previous modules and demo videos. However, Code expressions are very limited and good for simple math calculations. For example, custom functions can be simple or pretty complex depending on your needs. Let's take a look at some of the benefit and use case of custom functions. First, consider data transformation. For example, you might need to convert product data from an external supplier before displaying it in your store. This ensures that the product details, such as price or dimensions, are formatted correctly and consistently for your customer. Next is mathematical calculations. Imagine calculating the total cost of an order, including taxes, discounts, and shipping fees. With custom functions, you can handle these complex calculations directly within your app, ensuring accuracy at checkout. Then there is a string manipulation. For example, you can customize product descriptions by adding or removing a specific keywords based on user search. This allows you to adjust content dynamically, improving search relevance and user experience. And finally, conditional logic. Suppose you want to offer a discount only when certain criteria are met, like when a customer card exceeds a particular value. Conditional logic allows your app to apply these rules automatically, offering personalized deals and promotions. When creating custom functions, there are 4 steps: naming the functions, defining arguments, setting the return type, and then coding it. Let's just go to each of these steps a little bit more in detail. For naming the function, be descriptive and clear. Your function's name should describe what it does. Use non-verb pairs like fetch data or update settings. Avoid abbreviations and generic terms. So here is a good function name: personalized product offers based on location. Then, using the UI, you can define your function's arguments or parameters, which are the inputs for your function, and return type, which is the type of the data the function will return. Once you are done, FlutterFlow creates the function signature based on that. Let's take a closer look here. The input arguments should be descriptive and clear as well. For example, for a function to check if product existed in a cart, you may define arguments like cart items or product ID. You can define custom data types or pre-built-in such as a string for your arguments and have 2 options of making your arguments as a list or nullable. Return values allow your custom functions to pass data back to the main application, enabling further processing or UI updates based on the result of the custom code. The return type value can also be null, meaning no value, or a list of selected types. And finally, as the last step of writing the code, as I mentioned, you can write your own code between the comments line, or you can use Copilot to generate code. No worries if you also want to use GPT or Gemini to generate code for you. Only pay attention to imports and ensure that the code logic will be between modifying comment lines. I encourage you to do one more thing: writing a test for your function. In fact, writing multiple tests. Testing the custom code ensures it works as expected with various inputs, helping you catch potential issues early. Typically, to write a test, start adding a test. Depending on your function, define the input arguments fake data. Try to run the test case to see if you see the expected result. Check the result. And If you are doing more than one test case, which I encourage you to do if applicable, ensure you run all tests to check if all of them pass and return the expected value. For example, in our check, if a product exists in the cart, we can write two use cases. One that checks for a product in a list and one with a product ID that doesn't exist in a list. Both results should return as we expect. All right, that's it. It's time for a quick demo. Here is my product list, and we have a product item card with a button that is going to add the product ID to the cart. And if you look at the product, the add to bag cart action, we will see that it's updating the app state, which is going to be the cart items, a list of a string, and that string is the product ID. And by this logic that we see right now for the action, it means every time I'm clicking on this product, even though 3 times, it adds 3 items to the list. In fact, that is the quantity of this product, but it's repeated by the ID. So then in my checkout page, I want to generate a list of product from the cart. But the problem here is that if I generate it right now based on the app state cart items, it will generate repeated item, and we don't know the quantity of that product. We also don't know the detail of the product because we only have the ID. That's where we can use the custom function. Let's open the custom function and add a new function, starting by giving it a name. What we want to do here is we're going to pass an argument, cart items, to this function as a list of string, which is going to be the cart items from the app state. Okay. Another argument we're going to pass is going to be the products. And the products is going to be a list of data type of product. Beautiful. So we're adding 2 arguments to this function. What do we want to get in returns? We actually want both product and their quantities. And that is saying a custom type. All right, let's go and define a custom type quickly here. I'm going to add a cart item type. And the cart item is going to always be a product with a type of product and a quantity, which is an integer. And the default of the quantity is always 0. Beautiful. Let's go back to our function this time. And now I'm going to return a list of cart item. And it's always returning actually a list, even though it's going to be an empty list. All right, let's just start by writing our function. But I encourage you to write the logic that you want to do in function in steps in the comment. For example, the first step we're going to do, we're going to iterate over the cart and create a new unique list. And then we're going to count the repeated items. The second thing we're going to do is we're going to map each item in the new list in the product, which is matched by ID. And at last, we're going to return a list of product and their quantity. What we can do right now, I can go ahead and copy this function, go to Code Copilot, paste it here, and then ask Code Copilot to generate this code for me. That's one way of doing that. All right, great. Let's see if the function is actually matching what we want. I see that the first item is going to be a map. All right, and then each, in fact, product ID is going to the map. And then if there is a repeated one, it's going to be plus by 1, which is a quantity. Then we have the product details, which is going to be filtered by product ID. And then at the end, returning the product detail, which is this list. Beautiful. This is exactly what we want. Let's go ahead and copy this function. All right, let's go ahead and format the code. Though there's one error here, and that is this has ID from analyzer. And you see that the analyzer is saying you cannot call has ID on a product, which can be null. And that question mark is null. So what we can do, we can actually make sure before this, we are checking for that the product is not null, then running that function. And you see that the formatting again is not correct. I'm going to go and format. There we go. All good. Gonna save the function. All right, it's saved. And I can also compile it right now to make sure there is no error. All right, that's good. There's no error. Check. And let's move on right now. I'm gonna go back to my checkout and go to list view. Let's open the generate dynamic children and give it a name. Products cart item. And the value would be from custom function. Let's select the get products detail from the card, the function that we just created. Now we have two arguments. I'm going to pass the card item from app state and the products from app state. That's it. Save. And that's going to generate the list. All right, great. Let's now move on and actually bind these text as well. So I'm going to actually go to the title and try to bind it from product card item, which is a data structure field. And then I have product, beautiful, because it's card item. The data structure is going to be the product, and I have the title. Fantastic. Let's do for the price the same. And I will repeat the same. But this time, I'll just select the price. And I want to make sure that my price is formatted. It's going to be decimal and automatically based on country, and it has a currency value. Also for quantity, because it's two texts at the moment, I will choose combine text. And the first text is going to be actually quantity. And the second text is going to be from product card item, data structure of card item, and it's going to be the quantity of that. Beautiful. Let's confirm. And the picture is the last things. Gonna go to the picture path and let's select it from data structure product from the images list. And in that case, we're just going to have an item at index, which is going to give us the first item. We need only one picture. Nice. How about the total calculation? Another function we need to do right now. There is nothing that we can do here. We can go back to our custom function, create a new function. Let's call it calculate total. Now let's define our argument. What do we want to pass to this function to calculate? This is going to be the products card items. All right, so in fact, we already defined the data type of card item, which has the product, the price is in it, and the quantity. So let's say it's nullable and it's the list. Perfect. So what we're going to do right now, we're just going to go, this time I'm going to write the code myself. Let's say it's going to be a total of the value. We need to iterate over these arguments, and we can use fold method, which gives us the first value as the total value that we're going to actually fold all the items into it, which is the total of the price, and a function. In the first item of the function is going to be actually the total, which is starting from 0, 0, and the card item. Beautiful. So that's going to return, what do we have here? We have the total, which is starting from 0, 0, plus, then we have the card item, which gives us the quantity, multiple by the card item that gives us product price. Beautiful. But the product actually can be null, and that's what it says here. It says it can be null. So therefore, I can go ahead and use a question mark here just to make sure it already knows that's going to be null. But how about this? This is also a double null, but we cannot return right now total value of null because our return type is a double, not a nullable double. The first thing we can do, we can actually make it nullable, or you can return either the value or 0, or a default value in this case. And as you can see, it's not formatted. Let's format. Let's quickly save the function. Let's compile it. Beautiful, no error. Gonna go back to my checkout. So the total price, and then this time, let's use the custom function to get the total price. And as you can see, for this function, you need to pass a list of data card. It's an interesting one because that is a card item that's coming from another function, this function. So let's do that. And another function actually requires right now the list of product ID, card items, which is from app state, and the products, which is from app state again. All right, beautiful. So then let's format the number, decimal, automatically, a currency of $, and all is gonna be looking good right now. We can in fact repeat the same thing for this checkout here as well. I can do that very quickly. I will use the combine. And then I'll use the same thing that we just did using the custom function, calculate. I will pass another custom function with get the total. And in this case, we're going to pass the app state, card item, and the app state products. So that's going to return the list of card items. And then let's format. Currency $. There you go. Confirm. All right, that's it. Let's go ahead and test it out. All right, here is our app. Let's make sure that our state is clean. And I'm going to go back to home page and add maybe 3 more products. Beautiful. So let's add one of these products to the cart. Maybe this one too. Let me add one more. And maybe this one 3. Okay. Then I'm going to go to the cart. There you go. Beautiful. So we have all the quantities, price, and the names and pictures, as well as the total price for the cart. Now we can actually go on and add more functionalities, getting the base price, the taxes, and so on and so forth. Beautiful. Let's move on to the next video now, adding a new custom action in our project. Custom actions in FlutterFlow differ from custom functions in 2 different ways. First, they always return a future. This makes them particularly useful for complex operations that may take time to complete. They are useful for adding a third-party dependency from pop.dev, allowing you to extend the capabilities of your application with external packages. To refresh our knowledge, pop.dev was where you could find all packages that provide extra functionality or custom widgets that supports Dart and Flutter. But what is a future? Futures in Flutter represent an asynchronous operation that will return a value or an error at some point in the future. Examples include querying a database, time-consuming functions, network calls, or calling a function that returns results after a delay. You can define a future as you can see with generic parameter T. The T in future T is a generate parameter representing any type. For example, future string would be a future that eventually produce a string, while future int question mark would produce a nullable integer. As we have seen earlier in this course, a future function is often defined with the async keyword in Dart. But the question is, in which use case do you need to consider creating a custom action? Well, let's look at it. There are 4 use cases that I can think of. First, database queries. Imagine you need to fetch details information about a customer's order history. By performing complex queries, your app can retrieve or update the necessary data in your database, ensuring everything is accurate and up to date. Next, when we have API or network calls, for example, when your app needs to check live shipping rates from a courier service, it makes a synchronous HTTP request to their API. Then there is file operations. Say your app needs to generate and download a PDF invoice. Managing file reading or writing operations is crucial here, as it requires time to complete. And finally, third-party integration. Think about incorporating an external analytics package to track user behavior. All right, adding a custom action is similar to adding a function. And the only difference might be that you may have more action settings, which is not in the custom function. We're going to get to that shortly. But before that, if you plan to use a dependency from pop.dev into a custom widget or action, you must go through the following step. First, choose your package. Next, copy the dependency or package name, and then import the statement into the custom action or widget. So the first step is choosing the package. Choosing the right dependency for your project can be challenging, given the variety of options available on pop.dev. When you search for any dependency on pop.dev, you usually see a list of options. But how can you make sure which one of these are the best for you? So once you narrowed your options, there are a few important factors to consider when making your final choice. First, check if it supports web. This is important, especially if you plan to run your app in run or test mode on the web in FlutterFlow. Next, look at the likes. This shows how many developers have found the dependency useful, giving you a sense of its community approval. It may not be the best indicator, but can usually help if you are in doubt. Then consider the pop points. These points indicate the quality of the dependency. The higher the points, the better. Based on the factors like code style, platform supports, and maintainability. This is important. And third, popularity is another key metric. This tells you how many apps are using the package. A high popularity score of 100% suggests that the package is stable and trusted by many developers. Do not forget to review the documentation. A well-documented package will save you time and reduce confusion. Look for clear use case example, a comprehensive README, and ideally, API documentation. Finally, check the maintenance and updates. See when the package was last updated. A regularly updated package is more likely to be compatible with the latest Flutter and Dart version and have a fewer bugs. Once you select your choice, you can use the copy to clipboard icon on pop.dev, or you need to copy the package name plus the version. I want to share one important tip with you. You can check if the current dependency has additional dependencies inside dependencies section at the bottom right of the pop.dev package. Sometimes you may need to copy the name and version of all of the additional dependencies. Then, in the action settings sections, you can paste what you have copied and make sure to click on the button to install the dependency. All right, there is one more step. In the dependency page, select the installing tab and find the import statement under the import section. Make sure you copy this. Then go back to the code editor and paste it to the right below where you can modify the code. Pay attention to the comment that indicates you can write code below that. All right, that was the dependencies, but we also have seen other settings. Let's quickly explore them. If your action or widget fails to compile, but you still want to compile the rest of your code, you can enable this toggle. Doing so will exclude the problematic code from the compile process, allowing the rest of your project to continue building smoothly. There's also an option called Include Build Context specifically for actions. When calling this custom action, this setting determines whether to pass the widget's build context as an argument. In simple terms, build context refers to where a widget is located in the widget tree. It allows action to interact with the widget tree or access data specific to that location. One of the examples that you may need this is using navigation. Defining input arguments is similar to creating a custom function. First, in the UI builder, and then FlutterFlow will create a function signature. One extra argument for action, and that is callback action. But what is callback? In programming, callbacks are simply functions passed to another functions that get called when a particular event occurs. For example, you can have a custom action that takes an error with a search keyword as an argument. Here, on error is a callback function and search keyword is the action parameter. The setup means that when an error happens inside the custom action, it will pass the search keyword back to the on-error callback, allowing you to handle the error based on that keyword. Beautiful. It's time to move on to the demo and see how we can create a custom action in our project. All right, here is my product list, and I do have a text field for searching the product. I already added another UI here, which shows me the number of product that is found based on the search. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna fix the 0 to match the result of the search, plus I will make sure that this container is gonna be invisible in case there's no product, and instead showing some kind of snack bar or kind of error message that there's no product found. Okay, so for doing this, we need an custom action. As of now, the text field does not have any action. Let's go ahead and create a new custom action. Let's call it execute search. Then we need to define our argument. So we want to pass the keyword, the search keyword that is searchable. It might be nullable. And we also want to pass an on-error callback in case of any error or any message that we want to send out of this function to show in the UI. And that's going to be an action. And it's not nullable. And what do we want to pass to this action? It's going to be an error message. So let's say it's going to be an error message. And that's going to be a string in this case. All right, that's good. So now we defined our arguments. Let's define our return value. I'm going to return a list of products in this case. I do not need to add any dependencies, and I don't want to actually include build context because I don't need the context to navigate, for example. Then let's go and check the boilerplate code. All right, so the signature of the function is here. I'm gonna copy that. Looks good. Let's start by writing this function right now. Typically, you're gonna have an API call, and then you use the await keyword and to get the result. But for now, we're not gonna doing this. We're just instead gonna use the products from our app state. First, we need to make sure that our keyword is not null. In case if it's null, we're just going to return just an empty array. And also, we're going to call on error callback. What do we want to pass to this callback? It's just a simple error message. For example, we can say there is no keyword. And if in case it's not null or we are passing a keyword, first thing we're going to do, we're going to make sure that we have the products. Okay. As I said, you can get access to the app state in actions. So here's a function, and if you just press the dot, you will get access to the products. On this product, I'm going to have a filter, and that filter is saying if, for example, the product title contains the keyword. All right. In this case, so we may have actually a list of products. So in this case, we're just gonna return the products. But this product, as of now, if you check the product, our analyzer is actually saying it's an iterable. So we need to fix it because we're returning a list. So just call to list here. All right. But what if the product that we are filtering is going to be empty? Like if the product is empty. In this case, we're just going to call again the onError callback. We're going to notify user and say no products found for this keyword. And that's it. Beautiful. So let's format this and let's save the action. All right, good. Now we have an execute search custom action. Gonna go back here and I will go back to my text field, open the action flow editor and say on, for example, submit when there is an enter or tab. That's one way of doing that. Or on change whenever the keyword is changing. So, and then I'm gonna add an action. From the list of action that I have, I'll go to the custom action and I'll select execute search, the one that we just defined. And it already knows that I have to pass a keyword, which in this case is going to be our widget state text field search, and also an onError callback. And you see that it's showing me another action flow editor. So if I open that, it says define an action. I will define an action saying I want to notify user with a snack bar, and the value is going to be the action parameters. What was it? Error message. Beautiful. Okay, this is an error message. Let's just make sure we're going to change the background color to probably, this is just a notification. I'm just not going to show it as an error. Let's call it like secondary. And potentially the text is also okay. All right, that's good. Let's go back to the action flow again. Here's my custom action. We defined our callback. And now we need to give a name to the action output variable because this action is actually returning a list of product. Let's call it search result. This variable is going to be available in different actions, also in the page. So we would need this variable name. All right, all good. Close. First thing we want to fix is this container. The text is now showing only 0. I'm going to make sure the text where it's 0 is setting from the variable. And in this case, it's a variable of the action output. Just because we define the search result, it already knows that it's going to be a list of products. Beautiful. We're going to do that. And in this case, we're just going to say number of items. Just give us the number of items. Fantastic. One more thing I want to do here is I want to make sure that this container is appearing when actually there is any product. Let's go and fix the conditional. And let's make sure the action output search result, and let's say is set and not empty in this case. Beautiful. That's it. Let's go and test it out. All right. This time I'm going to use my FlutterFlow desktop app to reload it on a simulator. Let's just go ahead and reload our application. All right, here's my app. So I want to make sure that the state is clear. Here is my page. Let's add a few products. Beautiful. So let's search for, as I can see, we have Martha and Marcus. Let's actually search for Mar. You can see that it says no products found for this because it's actually case sensitive. So if I say that with capital M, then we see 2 products found. Beautiful. And that error message, though, was good because we made sure, let's say if I say Mars, then we get an error. There is no product found for this keyword. All right, if I now just remove that, well, it actually says it found 3 products because there is a title that is empty, right? And we need to fix this in our function. Let's go back to our action. And where we have the keyword, it might not be null, but it might be empty, like an empty string. So in this case, we can just say if keyword is not empty as well. Let's go ahead and save this. Okay. I'm going to restart my application. Let's test it again. So let's search for Mars. So it should says, okay, no product found, and make it empty. And it should says there is no keyword. Beautiful. And if I search for Mar, then we get 2 products. Beautiful. All right. Now let's move on to the next video and see how we can create custom widgets. The third option of writing custom code is custom widget. Generally, you would need to use custom widgets when you need to create complex UI components that are not available in the default FlutterFlow widget sets. Or you want to integrate external UI packages from pub.dev to enhance the functionality and appearance of your app. Adding a custom widget is similar to adding custom actions. You can add dependencies from pub.dev, define parameters, and even callback actions, except 2 parameters are required in widgets. Specifying both width and height is mandatory for custom widgets. These properties are required to size the widget appropriately. Without setting these dimensions, the widget will not render correctly within your application. FlutterFlow also allows you to view your custom widget once it is successfully compiled. This would help you to quickly get the feedback on your widget's appearance. All right, the rest of the properties are very similar to custom actions and custom functions that so far we have discovered. So let's go ahead and implement a demo. All right, here is my product detail page, and I want to add a rating bar for my product in this page. If I search for rating, I will definitely find a rating widget in FlutterFlow, And if I go to the properties, I see it's pretty also customizable. However, this is not exactly what I was looking for. So I want to extend the functionality of this and using my own rating bar. All right, let's just remove this. So what I did, I went to the pub.dev and searched for a rating package. And I found a Flutter rating package which has a lot of likes and popularities. Just open that. And I already see that this is way customizable. And in fact, the one that I was looking for is this one, a custom rating with these emojis. This is what I was looking for. And I want to use this as well quickly. So let's get started. So I'm just going to copy this widget. I'm going to go to custom code and add a new widget. Give it a name. And add the dependency. Make sure you're installing the dependency. Good. So let's go back to installing tab and then copy the import. And let's go back. All right, I'll paste it under the comment too so that we have already here. Perfect. So it's ready. So we need to now do our code. So what do we want? If I go back to the documentation of this widget, I see that this is going to create this rating bar for me. And there's actually a callback here on rating update, which is giving back a rating. So, and this is what we want actually. We want to receive the rating number. All right, that's good. First thing first, I'm just going to copy this sample code. And now I know that I need to have a callback. So when the rating is happening, there is a callback here, which is giving me the rating value. And the rating value is in fact double. Okay, sounds good. So now we have actually a function that is returning a double. And so let's make sure the double is also not nullable. We can always return 0. All right, and we already have 2 more parameters, width and height. Let's take a look at the boilerplate code. There you go. Here's my stateful widget with onRating as a callback function and an empty container in the build method. All right, I'm just going to copy this. And now I'm going to start with customizing my widget. So in the build method, I will keep the container, and the container would have a child here. And I already copied the custom code that I needed from the documentation of the package. Let's just paste it here. And there you go. Now I have my custom code. There is one small issue here, is that because this switch, if I take a look at the analyzer, it says this switch actually doesn't return any default. So we need to return a default. Let me just copy the case 4 and just make it default. All right, perfect. The code is not really formatted, as you can see. Let me just quickly format it. Beautiful. And then the next thing I want to do is I already defined my callback. I just want to go and remove the print, and then I'll just need to call the onRating and pass the rating that is coming from this widget. Beautiful. Let's now save the widget. Now we have a course product rating bar. Let's go ahead and use it right now. If I now go to the widget palette, I can go to the components and custom widget defined in this project. Here are my product, and at the very last is custom widget. Here is my custom widget with 2 parameters. All right, let's just drag and drop it here. So this is not showing right now because we have not yet compiled it, and that was deliberate. I just wanted to show you. And you can also see 2 errors here because we've not specified width and height as well. And there's also 1 warning, and it says the widget has not been compiled or validated. Let's go back to the, custom code and just make sure we are compiling this widget. There you go. Everything is validated and we got the check mark. Going back. And now product rating page is appearing here. But so I'm just going to go onto the widget tree and move this to the column, in fact. Let's move it somewhere below the description. Good, now I need to go and define my width and height for that. Let's put, for example, 300 widths or maybe 2. And in fact, we need to make this width maybe infinite and the height of probably 40. All right, that's good. So another thing I want to do is actually on rating that we have now a action flow editor because this is a callback. When a rating happens, we need to have the number and we need to show or do something. That's why I'm going to define an action, which is a callback. And on this case, I will just show the snack bar and the value would be the callback parameters, which is the rating value that we defined. Nice. So that's it. Let's close. All right, that's it. So I see that I can also change this color to match with my design system color. So I can go back to widget. And where we have the color, for example, for the very first one, and that's red, I can call FlutterFlow. And you will see that I will get FlutterFlow theme. And then if I call the off function and pass the context, then I will get all of my design system colors and all of the my design system styling. So let's say I'm going to use the red from my theme here. And let's also copy that one for the very last one. Instead of green, maybe we want to have another color. Maybe this one should be primary, and this one should be potentially secondary. And maybe the amber, it should be warning. And this one, let's select it as maybe accent. All right, let's now save. We need to compile again. All right, we got the check. So, and there you go. Even the colors right now are matching. Beautiful. Okay, so now let's go ahead and test it out. All right, the app is running right now. I'm just going to go to the detail page. Let's say this one. Now, there you go. I have the ratings here. I can click on any of this. There you go. Number 3 is appearing. And I can also click on the last one. There you go. Number 5. And also the purple is matching my design. Beautiful. This is exactly what we were looking for. All right, that's it. Let's move on to the next video and see how we can modify main.dart file. The main.dart file is the entry point to your application. It's the file that runs when someone opens your app. This file contains the main function, which starts the application by running the code that builds the UI and initialize any other necessary components. Inside the main function, you'll see other functions or logic. The specific function you see will depend on the services enabled in your project, but all projects will have the final function run app, which runs your application. Unlike other custom code modules, you cannot directly edit the main function in the editor because it is critical to your app's functionality. However, you can add initial and final actions on the right side. These actions come from custom actions you have created. If you haven't created any custom actions, you won't be able to select any. one important note here, you can only add custom actions with no arguments, including build context. Otherwise, it will not show up in your list of actions that you can add to the main file. Once you select your action, depending on whether it's initial action or final, it will appear before or after initializing FlutterFlow and app state respectively. All right, now it's time for a demo. Let's move on to the demo. All right, back to my application builder dashboard. And I want to talk about one of the typical scenario for mobile apps. There are many apps that they don't want the device orientation on landscape to be enabled. It's like when you rotate the phone, it always needs to be on portrait. Now I'm going to go to the custom code, to the main.dart, and you'll see that now I cannot edit this file. But I can add initial action or final. But if I click on any of these to add, you'll see there is no action. It's just because I need to define actions without any build context as well as arguments. So I do have execute search, but it already has some arguments here. So what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to create a new action. I'll call it set portrait. Let's look at the boilerplate code. Yes, just a simple function. Nice. Let's copy. And here is where I can write my code. But I need to do two things. In Flutter, you have a class called System Chrome, where you can set the preferred orientation. That comes from importing a package from Flutter. So you just need to import the service package in this case. And another thing you need to do, you just need to call this function and simply pass the orientation you want, which is gonna look like this. This function, set preferred orientation, is actually a feature. You can wait for that if you wish to as well. So in this case, I'm just gonna say my device orientation is gonna be up and down and no landscape. Let's format this. And let's save our action. Beautiful. Now, if I go back to my main.dart, this time I can say on initial action, then you'll see I have immediately this action or the custom action ready. I'm just going to go and select this, and it appears right above FlutterFlow theme initialization. Let's actually repeat this for final action to see where it's coming. It's actually coming right after app state is initialized. Depends on what you want to do. You can set any of these. For now, the initial action for us is enough. All right, that's good. Let's go ahead and save. So, and before we test our application, you will see that I see an error here. It's actually a warning. It's actually good to take a look at that, see what it says. It says your custom widget has not been compiled. So we need to make sure we're compiling our custom action and widget before we are running our application to test. All right, everything is checked, and now we can go ahead and test it out. All right, for this test, I'm gonna use my simulator and Flutter desktop app. So, and as you can see in my simulator, I can start rotating the simulator. So now this is in portrait mode. And if I rotate to landscape, you'll see that the app does not change. Beautiful. And if I do the other way, it is actually going to be in the portrait mode, and landscape, it's actually locked. So perfect. This is exactly what we were looking for. Awesome. We have now covered all the different custom code. Let's move on to the next video and see all of our custom code in the generated code. All right, I'm now opening the exported project from FlutterFlow in my VS Code. So the first thing I want to show you is the pub/spec YAML file. We added Flutter rating package to our custom widget, and as you can see, it's already added to the pub/spec YAML file under the dependencies. So the next thing I want to show you is under the lib folder right now, we will have a few more folders. For example, right now, you're going to have the custom code. And the custom code, you'll see the actions and the two actions that we just defined plus the widget, the one that we just created. Let's actually take a look at the search. This is exactly what we have seen in the FlutterFlow code editor as well. And the set portrait mode is exactly the same. And the widget that we created also is the same that we've seen in the web code editor on FlutterFlow. So these are now locating under the custom code. But where are the custom functions? The custom function goes under FlutterFlow into the custom functions file. So if I open that right now, you will see that I get my get product detail from cart. And here is all of my logic that I've created. Another function that we created was calculate total. That's also resided in this file. One thing we can do is that we can search, for example, where we are using this function. For example, I can right-click on this and say, give me all the references. Let's see where we are using that. We're in fact using that on checkout page. That's correct. And we're using that 2 times. That's also correct. So if I open that, you see that right now, we are using that in a text that is actually getting, or we are passing the app state cart item to the function, plus we are passing the product. And it gives us this function, of course, a total price. That's how the arguments that you define for functions are appearing. Let's go back to actions and take a look at the actions in this case. Let's say execute the search. So I'm going to get a reference of this where we are using that. And we're using that in product list page, which was correct. And if I go there, you see that it's importing the actions, which is, if I go all the way up, you see that it's imported from custom action. And then it calls the execute search. And because this is a future, it actually await for this future to get the result. And do you remember what was the result we named? Yes, correct. It was search result as a variable name. So this is where we can access everywhere else because the model is providing that to this widget. And on that case, we had a callback as well as a text. So we passed the text controller, which was the text field with the text value, the keyword as the first argument, and the second argument was actually a callback. And here is our callback, where we just actually open a snack bar in this case, where we had the error message as the argument of this callback. Let's now explore the main.dart file. And here is our main.dart file. So the main function is exactly what we've seen in the code editor. It's also appearing here. And as you can see, the action is imported when it's called in this case. And if I go to this, it's exactly the action that we just have written together in this module. All right, that's it all about the generated code. And you've seen how the code that you've generated and defined the arguments and even the written values are reflected in the generated code.